Yeah, I just found something out, or it came across. I was reading for a while this article from the European Geosciences Union, and it's actually quite a fresh article, 2 weeks old or something. Roughness of fractured surfaces in numerical models and laboratory experiments. And I was really excited that some geologists make some laboratory experiments. Institute of Geothermal Resource Management. Okay. Abstract. I don't want to read. I want to read the whole thing to you because it's really long. We investigate the influence of stress conditions during fracture formation on the geometry and roughness of fracture surfaces. Rough fracture surfaces have been generated in numerical simulations of traxial deformation experiments using the discrete element method in a small number of laboratory experiments on limestone and sandstone samples. Digital surface models of the rock samples fractured in the laboratory experiments were produced using high-resolution photogrammetry. Digital surface models. Okay. The roughness of the surface was analyzed in terms of absolute roughness measures such as an estimated joint roughness coefficient GRC and in terms of its scaling properties. The results show that all analyzed surfaces are self-affine but with different Hurst exponents between the numerical models and the real rock samples. Results from numerical simulations using a wide range of stress conditions to generate the fracture surfaces show a weak decrease of the Hurst exponents with increasing confining stress and a larger absolute roughness for traversely isotopic stress conditions compared to true axial fracture conditions. Other than that, our results suggests that stress conditions have little influence on the surface roughness of newly formed fractures. Okay. Uh, is there anything? I have to scroll down. Yeah, here are some pictures. Numerical model, which means they made their own rock. Like, I really don't know why, like rocks, they are like everywhere. You just walk in the area, grab some, go back in the laboratory, and crack it and watch what happens. You don't have to create your own rock, I guess. But they did experiments. Numerical DM model, limestone fragment, and some sandstone. So this is an artificial rock. And I really have no idea why they need an artificial rock. Like, it doesn't make any sense to me, but I am searching for the conclusions. You can read the whole thing if you want to. I did. What a waste of time. Anyway, conclusions. Now, finally. Synthetic fracture surfaces have been generated in numerical simulations of rock deformation experiments using the discrete element method DEM. Synthetic fracture surfaces and numerical simulations of rock deformation experiments. So first they made a rock, then they made a physical experiment, and then after that they made a computer model, and then after that they checked what they got, basically. Further analysis has shown no dependency of roughness measures such as REMS, arms roughness, and the joint roughness coefficient on the confining stress. One exception is the observation that samples fractured under true anisotropic conditions show lower GRC and lower Rum's roughness than samples fractured under transversal isotopic confinement, at least for numerical models for the artificial stone. For natural rock samples, this effect has not been tested yet. So can't tell anyone me the reason for why they just made this experiment on this self-made artificial rock and not on real rock. Photogrammetric analysis of shear fracture surfaces on two rock samples has shown that the choice of sampling area can influence the roughness data obtained. Results show, for example, a variation of plus minus 0.1 in the Hurst exponent between small sampling areas on the same surface of a rock sample. Let's just continue reading. It ends soon. Comparing the numerical results with laboratory experiments and additional data obtained from the literature suggests that the trends observed in the numerical parameter study are valid, but also shows some discrepancies in the absolute values of some of the roughness parameters. In particular, the fracture surfaces generated in the DEM simulation show higher joint roughness coefficient compared to natural rock samples and the lower Hurst exponent. So they do something really completely different, the opposite than their own created rock. The comparison also shows a stronger directional anisotropy of the roughness in the real rock samples compared to the numerical simulations. So this also didn't fit. The reason for this result is not clear so far and should be subject to further investigation. Yes, I agree. You probably should test a real rock. One possible cause might be the occurrence of grain size reduction in real rocks, which is not implemented in the current numerical models. Why? Like, isn't the whole reason for being science, or like that reason that science is in the first place, like to figure out how things are, like not creating your own reality and then check it, like if it figures or shows something. So they made a really long paper and actual laboratory experiments, but only with their own created rock, not with real rock. And now they wonder why they couldn't figure out the reality. And the reason why I made this video now is this one, because if I open a new tab, first we have Supervolcano, and then Science Tech Daily, 23 hours old. I didn't click on that yet. But some algorithm must watch me. Otherwise, it wouldn't probably emerge with this kind of news. Fractured artificial rock helps crack a strange 54-year-old fluid mystery. Environment Fluid Mechanics Geology, Princeton University. Maybe it came today or yesterday. Princeton researchers have developed a technique to better understand how polymers flow through small channels under pressure. Okay. Princeton researchers have solved a 54-year-old puzzle about why certain fluids strangely slow down under pressure when flowing through porous materials such as soils and sedimentary rock. The finding could help improve many important processes in energy, environmental, and industrial sectors, from oil recovery to groundwater remediation. The fluids in question are called polymer solutions. These solutions, everyday examples of which include cosmetic creams and the mucus in our noses, contain dissolved polymers or materials made of large molecules with many repeating subunits. Typically, when they are put under pressure, polymer solutions become less viscous and flow faster. But when going through materials with lots of tiny holes and channels, the solutions tend to become more viscous and gunky, reducing their flow rates. To get the root of the problem, the Princeton researchers devised an innovative experiment using a see-through porous media made of tiny glass beads. Transparent artificial rock. Okay, again. Why is everybody creating rocks? The whole earth is a rock, you know. This lucid medium allowed the researchers to visualize a polymer solution's movement. The experiment revealed that the long baffling increase in viscosity in porous media happens because the polymer solution's flow becomes chaotic, much like turbulent air on an airplane ride, swirling into itself and gumming up the works. Surprisingly, until now, it has not been possible to predict the viscosity of polymer solutions flowing in porous media. I guess it's because of the surface tension of the material itself and its own electromagnetic potential and the size of the molecules themselves. But let's go on. Said Sui Tata, an assistant professor of chemical and biological engineering at Princeton and senior author of the study appearing today, November 5th, in the journal Science Advances. But in this paper, we have now finally shown these predictions can be made. So we found an answer to that problem that has eluded researchers for over a half century. With this study, we finally made it possible to see exactly what is happening on the ground within other opaque porous media when polymer solutions are being pumped through, said Christopher Brown, a PhD student in Tata's lab and the paper's lead author. Brown ran the experiment and built the experimental apparatus, a small rectangular chamber randomly packed with tiny borosilicate glass beads. The setup, akin to an artificial sedimentary rock, spanned only about half the length of a pinky finger. Into this Fox rock, Brown pumped a common polymer solution laced with fluorescent latex microparticles to help see the solutions flow around the beads. The researchers formulated the polymer solutions so the material's refractive index offset light distortions from the beads and made the whole setup transparent when saturated. Tata's lab has innovatively used this technique to create see-through soil for studying ways to counter agricultural droughts, among other investigations. Brown then zoomed in with a microscope on the pores or holes between the beads, which occur on the scale of 100 micrometers, millions of a meter, 0.1 millimeter, I guess, in size, or similar to the width of a human hair, in order to examine the fluid flow through each pore. As the polymer solution worked its way through the porous medium, the fluid's flow became chaotic, with the fluid crashing back into itself and generating turbulence. Electromagnetics. What's surprising is that typically fluid flows at these speeds and such tiny pores are not turbulent, but laminar. The fluid moves smoothly and steadily as the polymers navigated the pore space. However, they stretched out, generating forces that accumulated and generated turbulent flow in different pores. Electromagneticity. This effect grew more pronounced when pushing the solution through at higher pressure, more energy, more electromagnetics. I was able to see and record all these patchy regions of instability, and these regions really impact the transport of the solution through the medium. Yeah, because it gets somehow statically charged, I guess. The Princeton researchers used the data gathered from the experiment to formulate a way to predict the behavior of polymer solutions in real life situations. Why don't just try it in real life? Garrett McKinley, a professor of mechanical engineering at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, who was not involved in the study, offered comments on its significance. This study shows definitely that the large increase of the macroscopic what macroscopiacally macroscopiacally Cali? Macroscopic observable pressure drop across the porous medium has its microscopic physical origins in viscoelastic flow instabilities that occur on the pore scale of the porous medium. Yeah, that's another clue that in equilibrium, nature always tries to get in equilibrium. Usually it's electric in nature. Given that viscosity is one of the most fundamental descriptions of fluid flow, the findings not only help deepen understanding of polymer solution flows and chaotic flows in general, but also provide quantitative guidelines to inform their applications at large scales in the field. The insights we have generated could help practitioners in diverse settings determine how to formulate the right polymer solution and use the right pressures needed to carry out the task at hand. We are particularly excited about the findings application in groundwater remediation. Because polymer solutions are inherently goopy, I don't know what goopy means. Environmental engineers inject the solutions into the ground at highly contaminated sites such as abandoned chemical factories and industrial plants. Mm. The Wish's solutions helps push out the trace contaminants from the affected soils. Polymer solutions likewise aid in oil recovery by pushing oil out of the pores in underground rocks. On the remediation side, polymer solutions enable pump and treat, a common method for cleaning up groundwater polluted with industrial chemicals and metals that involves bringing the water to a surface treatment station. All these applications of polymer solutions and more, such as in separations and manufacturing processes, stand to benefit from our findings. Yeah, and then the stuff stays in the ground. Yeah, let's pump some polymer into the ground and get the dirt up, and then let's leave the polymer in there. Overall, the new findings on polymer solution flow rates in porous media brought together ideas from multiple fields of scientific inquiry, ultimately disentangling what had started out as long, frustrating, complex problem. This work draws connections between studies of polymer physics, turbulence, and geoscience, following the flow of fluids in rocks underground as well as through aquifers, said Tata. It's a lot of fun sitting at the interface between all these different disciplines. Yeah, I want to show you a quick video and then I'll leave it there about fluids, geoscience. Yeah, actually, I didn't find the video I wanted to show you, but I will leave it here. I will find it once, share it. But I leave it here. If you want to read them, the articles, I will put links below. Thanks. Bye.